Now, here's your first alert weather forecast with meteorologist Henry Groff.
Well, we did see a little bit of snow earlier this morning, but again, that is not in line with that round of snow that we are tracking heading into the weekend. But as you can see here in downtown Parkersburg, the roads were covered for a little bit, but now it's slowly starting to melt away thanks to temperatures warming up right now. Sitting at around 32 degrees, feels like still around down to 23 because we have winds picking up from the south-southwest at 13 miles per hour. But above freezing starting to show up into Pomeroy, 37, 32 over in Marietta, Elizabeth, 34 degrees. So as those snow showers continue to move out and a little bit more tries to move in, well, the good news here is that it's really not going to be sticking to the ground. That is going to start to melt away and just mainly be some showers, especially with this round that's going to be moving in for our afternoon ahead of this cold front that's going to be sliding through. So as we look at futurecasts, still going to be looking at precipitation that's going to be around going through your afternoon, especially your evening commute. Futurecast is trying to keep it snow, but again, we're looking at temperatures this afternoon hitting those low 40s, so not much is going to be sticking to the ground. Now, heading into tomorrow, we do start to clear out, and we should get to see some sunshine there. And in fact, it should be nice and quiet. Still looking at temperatures in the low 40s, but then we are looking at colder weather coming back ahead of that winter storm this weekend, with Friday only up to around 28. So we do have that first alert weather day for you. It is going to start Saturday, but it's going to continue to extend into Tuesday because not only will we have to contend with that weekend snow, but we also have that very frigid Arctic air that we're going to have to contend with, and we're going to be looking at overnight lows back into the single digits. So we still have that winter storm on track to develop into Saturday. So much of Saturday, we're not going to be dealing with snow until potentially later into the evening. But once it starts to move in, then we're likely going to be stuck with snow all the way through Sunday. And then that snow should start to dissipate going into Monday. So this weekend, we're really going to be hammered by all of that snow. We still have uncertainty on exactly how much, but we are guaranteeing that we're going to be seeing impacts from this winter weather, and we are going to be looking at accumulating snow Saturday and through Sunday, and then contending with that cold weather with high temperatures even into Saturday up to around 17, and overnight lows even into the single digits. So while we have that quiet weather on your 7-day forecast, definitely try to enjoy it while you can, because going into next week, it is just going to be cold. Monday looking at mostly cloudy skies, and Tuesday looking at mostly sunny, but only with a high of 26 degrees. Emma Grace?
I have nothing positive to say, truly.
Certainly it could be a better forecast, but we just have a winter storm coming through.
Could it get worse, Henry?
We will see about that, but right now I definitely recommend, if you have any television shows you need to catch up with, maybe plan on watching it over the weekend.
You should watch The Pit.
We recommend it.
The Pit. And coming up after the break,